Goodyear knows that performance is everything, whether it's on the road or on the court or field. So when it comes to choosing tires, let Goodyear.com help you choose what's best. Goodyear, more driven.
And now, Jalen and Jacoby on ESPN Radio.
When I pop the trunk, head the day. Y'all pop the trunk, I pop the hood.
Now act stupid, I'll pop the trunk. Now give me your boom.
He is Jalen Anthony Rose.
What up, Dale?
I'm David Jacoby.
And on the cool check-in, center stage on the mic.
And we putting it on wax. It's the new style.
We're Jalen and Jacoby. What do we do?
We get to people what they want.
First, I want to give a shout out to everybody that showed up or helped us produce and perform in New York City. We released those podcasts over the weekend. Thank you all so much. We love doing the live pods, getting to see the people. Happy Monday. There's a lot to discuss. We have a lot of the standard topics on the rundown for the television program. But when we do pod exclusive, we get to talk about the fun things. Yeah. Should we just start with the Don't Get Fired topic of the day? I'm going to do it.
And now, the Don't Get Fired topic of the day.
I saw DJ Khaled was trending.
Am I sure I came back to this program? Am I sure I wanted to come back to this program? This is how we going to start?
This is how we're going to start. I can't put this in the television rundown because the executives watch the television show. They definitely don't listen to the podcast. I saw DJ Khaled was trending over the weekend. Did you see you know this news story? And I was like, oh. Yeah.
I do.
What sort of fun thing did DJ Khaled do on Snapchat this time? Did his jet ski break down? Was he filming his wife working out? Like, it's always something fun. Like, the guy is such a fun-loving, he's a happy, jovial human being. Everything he does makes me happy. And then, apparently this was like an old interview in which he said this, but he had some claims about some bedroom habits of his. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, just Google it, because I don't want to discuss it. But there were certain things that he doesn't do in the bedroom, and you can connect the dots from there. Jalen Rose, you're on the spot. You didn't know we were going to talk about this because you never involved in the pre-production meetings. No. When you saw that quote, what's the first thing that went through your mind?
The first thing that went through my mind when I heard that DJ Khaled didn't perform oral sex on his wife, it made me think he missing out on life.
Hey, live life. You only get one trip around the sun, DJ Khaled. Come on.
Hey man, let me tell you something. DJ Khaled, man, I need to hit my guy up. He missing out on life. Like,
shout out.
First off, I was like you. I was trying to figure, like, did he have a song coming out? Did he have an album coming out? What feature was about to happen? And so I clicked on a couple of the articles, and he was doing an interview with my guy, Charlamagne the God, and you know how much I love the Breakfast Club.
Of course.
I actually saw that interview, and it wasn't like a major, topic nationally at the time. And so the second thing I thought about it is, you got to watch your wife now, Khaled.
That's what I was thinking.
Coming after her.
That's one thing I was thinking.
Supermarket.
It's not just that. It's also like, DJ Khaled, what you do in your own time, I don't care how freaky or unfreaky you are in your own room. Whatever you do is fine with me. Whatever makes you guys happy, as long as you're happy, as long as you're healthy, as long as you're not doing anything illegal or hurting children or anything like that, go ahead and do you. Do you. I'm not going to judge you on that. But some tells me that she doesn't want that business in the streets. And some tells me that he got some text messages immediately on Saturday morning. Yeah.
No question. But also, the second part was actually disturbing. It wasn't that he didn't do it because he didn't enjoy it. It's that he didn't do it because he's the queen, which made her sick. He said he didn't do it because he's the king, therefore seemed dismissive to the role that women play. And so there will be people like myself that feel some type of way that he articulated that point, and it's unfortunate that he feels that way.
Well, Something tells me we haven't heard the last of this story, but I was shocked by it, and I can't believe it's starting.
But he ain't living his best life.
He's really not.
It's almost like.
Come on, DJ Khaled.
Here's the thing. There's a time in my life where the University of Michigan took me to Europe, and I hated the trip. And I made a quote that I'm not proud of. Who wants to go to Europe? It ain't Detroit. Because I wasn't exposed to the finer things in life. Hey, DJ Khaled, my brother, I got to hit him up. He ain't living his best life.
He's not living his best life at all. So, obviously, we're going to talk about all of the Eastern and Western Conference semifinal series when we get to the television content. But, just let's be honest with each other for a second, Jalen. All 4 series are over. We already know who's going to be in the Eastern and Western Conference Finals at this point. Yeah. Of all 4 series, which one has the potential to flip? Is there one that has potential to flip?
There is no series in this dynamic that has the opportunity to flip. The Western Conference Finals are projected. Nobody's surprised the defending champion Golden State Warriors are facing the Houston Rockets once they added Chris Paul. On paper, you always pay attention to the Spurs, but they were without Kawhi Leonard for most of the year. And people also felt OKC, if somebody was going to upset the apple cart as the season started, would be them. Now, in the Eastern Conference, there's no surprise. If you listen to this program, we've never wavered in any way, shape, or form, feeling like LeBron James was going to make it to the conference finals, and whoever played against LeBron would celebrate their season. In this case, it's now the Boston Celtics. What makes it unique, however, a major storyline we hoped would happen was that LeBron and Kyrie would face each other in the conference finals. The problem for Kyrie is that his team made it there without him. He's on his Nick Foles, Carson Wentz right now. Imagine if the Boston Celtics make it to the finals. Then you're going to have people saying, oh, they may be better without Kyrie. Hot take factory in saying they should trade him, which they should not. The Boston Celtics have done a terrific job of actually executing the process. How about they hired Brad Stevens and gave him a 6-year deal? No other teams were trying to hire him. No. Anybody could have went out and hired Brad Stevens for Butler if they really chose to.
You don't give too many coaches 6-year deals either.
And before you know it, he continued to build a roster that he can coach, that he can nurture. And they have multiple lottery picks, and they have versatility. And who could have thought that they would be up 3-0 against the Philadelphia 76ers?
So since we've already considered these teams dead and buried, we'll have plenty of time to talk about LeBron and Celtics and what Brad's team is going to cook up to stop LeBron, blah, blah, blah. We'll have plenty of time for that. But let's talk about some of the teams that are no longer part of this experience. And you look at the Raptors. The Raptors are not going to beat the Cavs in this series. And the Raptors changed their culture last offseason. Remember? Oh, we're going to change the culture. Now we're going to move the ball and we're going to shoot threes and we've got this new depth and we're going to play 11 deep rotations. What do the Raptors need to do now this offseason to change their fate so they don't once again get beaten by LeBron James next postseason?
Of the top 10 players on the roster, 9 of those guys have contracts for next year. The only one that doesn't is Fred VanVleet. And I'm a huge Dwayne Casey fan. I gave him consideration for Coach of the Year. And I don't know if it was him or maybe some of his assistants or probably even one of the players. Somebody should have went up to him, longtime veteran, been around the league longer than I have, and said, you do not want to get down 0-3 and not play DeMar the last 14 minutes. That is not going to be a good look for you. It's not going to be a good look for us as a staff. And it's not going to be a good look going into the offseason after we get swept. We just gave this man $139 million. If we're going to go down, we got to go down with our best player. I understand the narrative. If you win without him, you look like a genius, but you can't try to look like a genius in this dynamic. You have to put him back in the game. Since he did not put him back in the game, you fracture a relationship. It will never be the same between them. It just will never be the same.
Well, but to what do they do this offseason? If Masai Ujiri calls Jalen Rose and says, I got to make some changes, this obviously is not working. I know that I've got a lot of money tied up and there's not a lot of flexibility here. It's not like we can reinvent the roster. What should I do, Jalen Rose?
I'm glad you remixed the question, and here's why. The players that have value have anchors on their contracts. DeMar DeRozan, you don't want to move him because he's your best player, and you just signed him to a big deal. You won't be able to move Kyle Lowry for the number that he's at.
Nope.
You won't be able to move Serge Ibaka for the number that he's at, especially the way he was invisible in this year's playoffs.
Yep.
And Valanciunas, he's all right, but he's not real. That's not going to necessarily change the dynamics of being swept in the playoffs. So they're pretty much handcuffed unless they can find a team that's just around the league trying to unload, some major deals that they don't want.
So I want to move to the confetti game, and obviously we're going to discuss all this a little bit later, but I just want to talk to you about the actual person that pushed the confetti button. Like, how does that happen? Who pushes the confetti button there? Who pushes the confetti button? Who doesn't know that Bellinelli was not behind the three-point line? Who doesn't know that the game is tied? Whose job is that? How did they get that wrong?
Man, they got caught up in the hype. This process thing is getting out of control. How about this, by the way? Who would have thunk it? How about this? And for everybody that supports this program, it was a tough time for me when Drake and Meek Mill were going through their beef. I remember coming on this program and Millie was trending for 3 or 4 days, and we had days where we just saluted his music because that's how we do on this program. And so now that I guess his story has become mainstream, and he on helicopters with owners, and owners coming to visit him in prison, and he getting sit-down interviews on major networks, people forget this time last year, the Drake and Meek Mill beef almost had a way to fast forward itself in this year's playoffs. Imagine if Toronto and the Sixers would have actually faced off.
That would have been so great. That would have been so great. But we are so far from that right now as we sit here. I mean, right now it's like...
And so...
You know how Drake always comes out with emotional music? Drake's in the lab right now just crying. He can't even write lyrics. He's just in the lab crying. He's going to come out with the saddest songs now. He's going to come out with the saddest songs. It's not going to be nice for what anymore. It's going to be like, go to the games for what?
I like when people put up a lot of things on IG and stuff. They call it bronze plan. That was a nice one.
My wife was out of town this weekend. I had all 3 little children. 5-year-old boy, 2.5-year-old girls to myself. And I'm just terrified at the thought of facing 72 hours of single parenting with these young, crazy people. And one of the things I said, you know what? I'm going to give them an experience. Because if I take them somewhere, if we go to a live event, I don't have to really parent. Other people can take up their time and entertain them. And it was a great idea. So what did we do? I decided I want to take them to Paw Patrol. Paw Patrol Live. Chase, Rocky, Rubble, Zuma, Ryder, Sky, Everest, Mayor Humdinger, who my son calls Mayor Dumdinger. I took them to Paw Patrol Live. And when I was deciding how to get the best tickets, I know I trust SeatGeek because it's the smartest, easiest way to get tickets for every type of live event. So when I was looking for this Paw Patrol thing, I knew I was going to get fully guaranteed seats, and I knew I was going to get a good deal. Because SeatGeek saves you time by searching multiple ticket sites to compare the prices and get you the best deal. They also grade every ticket based on a value, so you can immediately identify the best seats that fit your budget. So when I needed to go to Paw Patrol, the first thing I did was go to SeatGeek. Because whenever you're going to a live event, SeatGeek is the most trusted source to get fully guaranteed tickets that you know you're not going to waste money on. Paw Patrol was so much fun. I barely had to parent. All I had to do was sit there and watch Ryder, Rocky, Zuma, Marshall, Chase save Adventure Bay by winning the race against Mayor Humdinger. It was so easy. It was a few clicks. I got a great deal on tickets. It was a great experience. So don't forget, right now, if you also want to get the SeatGeek experience, just download the SeatGeek app to your phone, and on your first purchase, you can get $20 off. Go to SeatGeek, put in the promo code Jacoby. That's promo code Jacoby, and you will get $20 off your first SeatGeek purchase. Paw Patrol. We're on a roll. Whoa-uh-oh. Whoa-uh-oh. Paw Patrol. SeatGeek app. Download it to your phone. Promo code Jacoby. Get $20 off.
Hard to believe that baseball season is here. As fans, we demand a lot from our teams, and a new season means not only hope that our teams will do us proud, but a renewed drive and commitment by players and coaches to start strong and finish strong. Goodyear strives to make tires that do the same, to go further, faster, and longer. They're inspired by those who put in the work and effort needed to succeed. So if you demand superior performances from your team, why not do the same for your tires? When it comes to choosing tires, choose right at Goodyear.com. Goodyear, more driven.
The Rockets beat the Jazz yesterday behind the offense of James Harden and the great defense of Clint Capella. They now have a commanding 3-1 lead in the series. I think it's over. You think it's over. But don't tell Chris Paul the series is over. Here's Chris after the game.
You're now 1 win away from your first ever appearance in a conference final. Have you allowed your mind to go that far yet?
Nah, it's the process, man. I've been here before, 3-1. Went bad real quick. You know what I mean? So it is what it is. We just enjoying the process. Want to get home, see my family. You know
There's so much there to unpack. I love that he's recalling the Clippers-Houston series when they were up 3-1 and then lost. I love the fact that he said process twice, which I found interesting as well. Do you think this series is over?
The series is over, but shout to Donovan Mitchell for an outstanding rookie season. I mean, he's been dynamic this year in so many different facets. And Quinn Snyder by coaching that roster and getting further than any of us anticipated. For the Houston Rockets, they're on track with their goals. And for Chris Paul, this is the first opportunity in his career for him to play in the conference finals. It has never happened for a Hall of Fame quarterback, for a Hall of Fame point guard who came into the game as one of the best distributors. Looked to pass first, looked to pass second. He has actually become the best isolation scorer in the NBA by the numbers this year. How about that for his game evolving? So it's great that he wants to stay in the moment. It's his birthday, and you know what happens when you get a little older. You care to allow what you're thinking actually come out of your mouth. So he didn't worry about the curse word in any way, shape, or form. All he knows is that he's going to have to face the Golden State Warriors, and that's what they're going to be judged by.
Well, he wasn't the only one cursing after the game. And you know how losing games can be frustrating, especially big playoff games. And Donovan Mitchell, walking through the tunnel, I bet he didn't think that this was going to be on wax. Let's listen to Donovan. Now, that sounds to me like someone who is upset about the way that James Harden was officiated. We all know that James Harden draws a lot of fouls. Do you think players around the league resent James Harden for the way he plays and the way that his game is called?
Yep. I think they resent it when they're playing against him. They understand his greatness. Here's a guy that's led the league in total points, led the league in assists, presumptive MVP for this year, as Donovan Mitchell so described. James Harden has game. And if he's going to be able to step back and shoot threes and get away with a little travel, if he's going to be able to drive to the hoop and create contact and get and ones and or get to the line, he's virtually unguardable. So for that, players are going to get upset and be disappointed in the refs or whatnot, but you already know how it goes. There are certain calls that happen in the game. There are rookie calls, there are vet calls, there are first quarter calls, there are fourth quarter calls. And Donovan Mitchell got it right. You got to be an MVP candidate, sir, to get the kind of calls that James Harden is getting at this point of the season.
I think that's fair. Remember Game 3 in the Warriors and Pelicans series when the Pelicans just went out and waxed the Warriors? I mean, Zaza Pachulia was in the game. They beat them by 20. The starters were getting pulled late in the fourth quarter. And if you're a fan and you're watching, you're like, ooh, maybe the Pelicans have a chance to at least extend this series pretty long. Well, that didn't last very long because in Game 4, the Warriors did something very interesting to start the game. They started the death lineup for the first time. Jalen, the Warriors are clearly going to move on through the playoffs. Do you think this will be their starting lineup as they try to make their finals run?
Not necessarily. I think Steve Kerr doesn't get enough credit for obviously coaching an amazingly talented team. You still have to make adjustments. And there were periods in this year's playoff without Steph Curry where he started Iguodala and JaVale McGee. That lineup hadn't played together before. Nick Young has had an opportunity to start in basketball games. They developed Kevon Looney into somebody that could play quality minutes. Quinn Cook was in the G League. They ended up putting him on the roster, and he found himself getting a multi-year contract. So with that being said, starting a depth lineup really was a calling card for Draymond Green. When he's invested and he's playing with the level of focus, then you can put him on an Anthony Davis and not worry about him getting in foul trouble or getting technical fouls or getting frustrated. And when you're able to do that, now you unlock the rest of your lineup because now it's constant motion and you can take advantage of matchups like they've been doing with KD because he's towering over Drew Holiday. And then once he gets going, as you know, KD can shoot over everybody.
Yep.
And that clip of him shooting on Anthony Davis is a perfect example of that.
It just seems unfair, but I'm so glad you brought up Draymond Green and KD because KD had 38 points in a dominant performance. It was masterful. But for some reason, Draymond Green is getting credit for this because the night before or after Game 3, he texted KD at 4 in the morning and said, like, oh, we need more out of you. Why is Draymond Green getting credit for KD's performance? And if you're going to text him 4 in the morning, is that impactful and motivating or just simply annoying?
No, that's one of those things that Draymond probably was getting up, going to the bathroom, like, I'm about to hit up KD right now. and so, on the flip side, just because you send a message, that don't mean the guy got it. KD probably didn't get it till like 8 in the morning. And here's the other thing it shows me. KD clearly doesn't live with a woman because you getting 4 a.m. texts. You like, hey, who is that sending you a paragraph at 4 in the morning? You know? So Draymond understands the personal dynamics, but in all seriousness, this is why KD went to the Warriors. He doesn't have to worry about things like he says, like being a leader or things like that. He can just go out, focus on his game, and get buckets, and that's what he's doing.
If I get a 4 a.m. text, my wife is definitely looking at it. And I also love this aspect of the story where Draymond Green was like, oh, I was up watching film. I was so mad after losing that game. I was up until 4 in the morning watching film. No, you weren't. You were watching reruns. You were watching whatever movie was on in the hotel. Like, come on, Draymond. I don't believe you, even if it might be true. We all know we are headed for a Warriors-Rockets Western Conference Finals. Jalen, we watched you on Get Up this morning. Get Up every morning at 7 to 10 a.m. on ESPN. Excellent show. Jalen wears great clothes on it. And we heard you say that you would pick the Warriors over the Rockets. That's not a crazy story, but my question for you is this. What would have to happen for the Rockets to beat the Warriors in the Western Conference Finals?
James Harden would have to be the best player on either team. Like, he would have to put up an astronomical performance for the ages. Mm-hmm. Some of those major games we've seen from James Harden, where he's gotten 40-plus points and he's gotten 15-plus assists, it's got to be flirting with those type of numbers. And then, secondly, Chris Paul has to also be 25 and 12 type Chris Paul. Like, those two guys will have to be dynamic, which now opens up shots for Trevor Ariza, for Gerald Green, for Eric Gordon. If they're able to do that, then they could possibly advance. I don't see that happening, which is why I'm still picking the Golden State Warriors to win.
When we were talking amongst the staff in all the meetings that you don't join when we prepare the show, the question was posed to me, and I said, it's going to take like 3 or 4 40-plus point performances from James Harden. I kind of feel the same. Like for the Rockets to win, it's going to have to be some sort of like, signature series from James Harden and, as you mentioned, Chris Paul.
Yep. Allbirds wool runners are comfy shoes made from sheep. When you put them on, they feel astoundingly comfortable. They're so comfy, it'll feel like you're floating in a river of marshmallows. They also look good, too. Allbirds are designed simply, with no unnecessary logos. You can wear them to work or to play, in the office or out in the town. Allbirds is on a mission to prove that comfort, style, and sustainability don't have to be mutually exclusive. Go to allbirds.com and find your pair of soft, cozy, comfy shoes made from sheep. The Wool Runner from Allbirds.
One of the major stories this offseason is going to be all the free agent movement, all the rebuilding that the teams have to do. And one of the major players in all of this is a gentleman by the name of Paul George. Well, Paul George is available to move away from the Thunder if he would like to, and that's what everyone's looking to see if he will do. And this weekend, he went paintballing with Russell Westbrook. Let's take a look.
Here, eat, beat the whole bang bang. What we talking about? What we doing?
Now, bang bang. You think I'm going to do the media thing? You think I'm going to do the media thing where I'm like, Jalen, does this mean that Paul George is going to stay with the Thunder because he hung out with Russell Westbrook? But that's not the thing I'm going to do. The question I have for you is Russell Westbrook, with all of his ferocious intensity and athleticism, the worst person in the world to play paintball against?
Absolutely, with his intensity and his tenacity. And you know what? He gonna get up some shots. Yeah, for sure. He took over 40 in the last couple of games. He definitely gonna get up some shots, no question about it. But it's good, in all honesty, that they're spending this quality time so close after them getting eliminated. And I know Paul George free agency is gonna be discussed a lot, but just think about it like this. If he leaves the Oklahoma City Thunder and doesn't get his 5th year on his contract, that's leaving $40 million on the table. So I don't know if he's necessarily ready to do that. I don't know if the organization is going to be ready to do a sign and trade, but it is a great sign if you're a Thunder fan to see them spending this quality time so close after the season.
What do you think will be more influential on Paul George's decision? The fact that Russell Westbrook is on the Thunder, or the fact that Carmelo Anthony is also probably going to be on the Thunder getting paid $28 million?
So here's what happens when y'all go paintballing.
Yep.
Hey, dog, did you see what Melo said after the game? Yeah, I see what he said at the game. What do you think about what he said after the game? Hey, man, that's my dude. He a future Hall of Famer, but he can't be starting at the 4 no more. I agree, dog. So let me tell you, if I come back, we got to find a way to talk to the GM because we got to move him. He still got value around the league, but as it relates to starting as a 4 on a playoff team, not at this point in his career. Can you get that done, Russ? I get it done. I get it done. All right, cool. Let's get these shots up.
I think that's pretty much exactly how that conversation went. I'm glad you're enlightening us with it, because that's how I feel it went as well. Herschel McGriff is a 90-year-old man, and he is going to be driving in a NASCAR event. Jalen Rose, you have graced the world with the wise words of your 100-year-old grandmother. Could you see her driving in a NASCAR event?
That's cultural. So whether she was 100 or 30, I wouldn't see her doing it.
Okay.
The other thing I would like to say is it's amazing that a 90-year-old is still driving. My grandmother was driving into her 90s, but she wasn't driving on the track at 200 miles an hour. You're sure this guy need to have a driver's license to do this?
This is a good idea. Are there other cars on the track? I have a lot of follow-up questions, but shout to Herschel. Shout to Herschel. You know, keep doing you.
Shout out.
Jalen Rose, the Raptors. The Raptors. The Raptors are now down 3-0 against the Cavs. We all know what happened on Saturday. We were all watching when LeBron James did this.
Here it is. James under 3 seconds to go. Throws up the floater. Flash! Good night, Cleveland! That is for you!
Jalen Rose, so far, just 10 games into these playoffs, LeBron James has 4 40-point games, 2 triple-doubles, and 2 buzzer beaters. He's gone on top of the press table twice with his arms outstretched. This playoff performance from LeBron James has been otherworldly. What have you seen from LeBron thus far through 10 games?
I see an improved basketball player. And one of the things that Kyrie Irving leaving actually did was force LeBron James to show other parts of his game. A lot of times throughout his career, he's been questioned on whether he had what it takes to take the big shot and make the big shot.
Good point.
As you mentioned, he's done that consistently all season. This year he had more triple-doubles than at any point of his career. He's a better three-point shooter. Here's a guy that now has a complete basketball game, and his repertoire is outstanding. We always knew him to be a physical specimen that could get to the bucket, bang on you, and throw his body around. And, oh, by the way, is a terrific playmaker. But now LeBron James has elevated himself into top-tier status officially in my mind.
You know what? I'm glad you brought up what you brought up, because I've forgotten that there was this thing about LeBron that he doesn't want to take the big shot. He always passes to the open man at the end of games. Should he have passed? Shouldn't he take the shot? Is he a superstar? Does he have what it takes? Does he have the clutch gene? Even as recent as last year's finals, remember he passed to Kyle Korver in the corner, and people were saying, oh, if you're LeBron James, do you have to take that shot? LeBron James has no trouble taking buzzer beaters, as we're learning this year. One thing that was very interesting about that game, though, DeMar DeRozan, who is by far the Toronto Raptors' best player, was not having a good game, but Dwayne Casey benched him for the majority of the stretch run in the fourth quarter. I was surprised by it. I thought maybe he was hurt or something. What do you take away from this benching and the lack of explanation after the game from Casey to DeRozan?
It was handled wrong. Ultimately, you got to go down with the players that help get you there. And I appreciate how DeRozan handled it, because if that would have been me and I just got $130 million, I will be in the game. And it would have started by me walking up to the coach and letting him know to put me in the game. And then if he decided he didn't want to put me in the game, I went to the scorer's table and checked into the game and took Van Vliet out, who, by the way, has shown promise this year, but wasn't playing that well where he could not have been substituted for DeMar DeRozan, a guy that's your best player and perennial 20-point scorer. So with that being said, again, it's unfortunate for he and Dwayne Casey, because the relationship they were able to nurture is now going to be fractured for a really long time. I don't think you could put that toothpaste back in the tube.
So you really think that this one singular game, I do not think the Raptors are going to come back and win this series. A pretty safe bet there. You think this one singular game, that one action, will fracture their relationship for a long time?
Yes, because it's the equivalent of you in a relationship and you come home and not only is your mate cheating, but they're doing it in y'all bed.
What?
It's like,
what?
At some point, you got to put DeMar DeRozan back in the last 14 minutes of the game. It was a close game. Y'all actually made a run and kept it close, to which led to LeBron James hitting the buzzer beater. You have to have him out on the floor, because when you're the best player, you're going to get the blame. He's gotten that over the last couple of years. I know it pained him to sit over there and watch his squad lose. Of
course. One thing I found surprising about Game 3, more surprising than LeBron James' buzzer beater, Khloe Kardashian attended Game 3 in Cleveland, was pictured there watching the game, and Tristan Thompson had 0 points. What's more surprising to you? The fact that Khloe's supporting Tristan, or that Tristan has had such a little impact in the last 2 games? Is it real, son? Is it really real, son? Is it really real, son? Is it really real? Talking up a kill, son. Is it really real? What's happening? Hey, man, the curse is real, fam. I'm so happy that she was there to support him. Okay. I appreciate that they're working on their relationship. It's none of our business. They just had a beautiful son named True. I support them as a power couple, and I'm wishing them luck. But the curse is real. In a series that I thought would be much more competitive than a 3-0 start, the Sixers were at home in Game 3 in a tight game down the stretch and just continued to crumble. Possession after possession, they were missing shots, they were throwing the ball away. It was just kind of sloppy at the end, and Ben Simmons was in the middle of it. My question for you is, has Ben Simmons just had a couple bad games, or has Brad Stevens and the Celtics strategy exposed the young rookie? I would say the latter. And the great thing about him being a young player is he's going to learn from this, and it's going to make him a better performer. When I say exposed, yes, they're going under a lot of pick and rolls. They can guard him with Morris. They can guard him with Al Horford. Usually those guys are playing against power forwards and centers. So they have the size and the strength to take his post-up game away, and more importantly, take his layups away. If he could shoot the ball, and he was at 21, 22 feet, they would have no chance of staying in front of him. Also, some of the decisions that were made, to me, were based on the fact he was struggling, and then he can't make free throws, or he can't make jump shots. Like when he gets the offensive rebound and it's about 18 seconds to go, you can't shoot that ball back up because y'all have possession. But since he doesn't want to go to the line, that, to me, is the reason why he did that. And when your confidence is down, like in the fourth quarter, he went to the bucket, had an uncontested dunk, missed it. A couple of possessions later, had a layup, missed it. And so now, at the end of the game, of course you're going to have him taking out the ball at the end of the fourth quarter. You think you're turning it over to J.J. Redick. Simmons goes to do an action, and J.J. Redick, all he's doing is looking at the back of Ben Simmons' jersey. I don't know why he chose to throw him the ball, but he did. And so those are the type of plays that snowballed in the fourth quarter that ended up carrying over into the overtime. But I want to give the Celtics credit for winning a big-time game. And what a play call on the side out of bounds for Brad Stevens to get it to Al Horford for the game-winning bucket. It was brilliant, and I have one very quick question for you. Brad Stevens deserves a lot of credit for the defensive strategy, for those play calls like yourself with Al Horford from the baseline in out of bounds. It was brilliant. But you know me, I'm competitive, and I'm jealous, and there's a little bit of negativity in my heart. Do you think Danny Ainge is just like a little bit upset that Brad Stevens gets so much credit for the Celtics' success? No, because he started the process by giving him a 6-year contract. So he feels like this is my creation. It wasn't the other way around. Yep. So, Jalen Rose, I'm watching the Cavs, and you know I'm kind of a LeBron stan. I've been watching the Cavs all year. And when they picked up Jordan Clarkson and Larry Nance, I was like, oh, a couple of young energy guys. It's kind of one of the things they were missing. Some bounce, some athleticism, some youth. Why hasn't Larry Nance, played?
Because there's only so many minutes to go around, and you're playing against matchups. So in the previous series, he did play early in the series. He just wasn't effective. Mm-hmm. Tristan Thompson got in the 7th game, and he helped them advance because you go with the players that have been in playoff situations and, more importantly, have a level of familiarity with one another. Once Tristan has that Tristan Thompson has that double-double and they advance, now those minutes are his. Especially when he carries it over, comes off the bench in game 1 and puts up another double-double, where in this series, the matchup is now Kevin Love at the 5 because you want to take advantage of Valanciunas out on the floor.
Yep.
So it's more of a matchup thing, and it's more of a minutes thing. People also underestimate LeBron plays most of his minutes, in theory, at the 4. And so those minutes are going to be taken up by those 3 guys, and so Larry Nance is just out of the rotation. For Jordan Clarkson, he has to learn how to play possession basketball. So many times when you're a young player and you grow up and you start playing on a losing team, it's like you out there playing, but they're not keeping score. That's what I see a lot with him. And I appreciate his aggression, and I understand that he really wants to attack, but there are some times where he gets a little out of control. And at this time of the year, you got to play the percentages, and you want to go with something steady. So therefore, George Hill is going to get those minutes, and J.R. Smith in the backcourt. And then you got to slide Kyle Korver in there as well.
Always, we want to give the people what they want, so we open up our Twitter feed and our voicemail boxes. First question from Twitter from the Cerebral Assassin. It's a good question. Which duo are you more disappointed with, Hustle and Flow or Lowry and DeRozan?
That's a great question.
Jalen's thinking. Cerebral Assassin got him.
I have to say the Wizards.
Oh.
Because they have a future together. They will be playing together next year and the year after that. You're not breaking that up. And you just have to add more parts to it. I like Oubre. I like Otto Porter Jr. The reason why I picked them is at least the Raptors got to the number 1 seed. The Wizards were the 8th seed. Coming into this year, I would not have thought that they'd fall all the way to the 8th seed and get bounced in the first round. At least the Raptors played well during the regular season, accomplished some things, but yet they ran into LeBron James and lost. But when they played against Washington, they eliminated them.
That's a good point, because people will point to the regular season lack of success and say, oh, John Wall was injured. But when John Wall was injured, that didn't really hurt their winning percentage, to be honest with you. They kind of continued at the same clip throughout the year. And the regular season does matter, as it dictates what your matchup is in the playoffs, and they clearly did not get through the Raptors. If you call 985-80-JALEN, you can leave us a voicemail. If you leave us a voicemail and you give Reggie a shout-out, we'll play it on the show just like this.
What's up, Jalen and Jacoby? This is Isaiah from Painesville, Ohio. Shout out Reg, shout out the whole staff, shout out Katie, when she comes in and, fills in for Jalen when he got too many things to do. But I digress. Thank you for giving the people what they want. My question for you guys is LeBron James the GOAT now? What he did in the last couple of games that he's had, man, in this last season, he's been playing out of his mind, out of control. I just want to know, what is it that he's got to do to surpass Jordan? Because in my mind, as a younger player, he's better. Jordan is the greatest player who's ever lived, but LeBron James is the greatest player to me who ever picked up a basketball. So I just want to know you guys' thoughts on it. Keep giving people what they want. Keep getting them checks.
So I saw y'all talk about this on Get Up. Yep. And I have a lot of influence over what we discuss on this program because Jalen doesn't join the meetings. But I would never, ever put this in the rundown. I would never, ever, ever dumb it down to LeBron versus Jordan. Let's do it. Because that's just not something, like, that's just so barbershoppy and just so low-hanging fruit. Who's the greatest of all time? Well, you can have that conversation today. You can have that conversation tomorrow. You can have that conversation in 3 months. And just because he hit a buzzer beater, an exciting shot off of 1 foot, doesn't mean that we have to dredge up the old, is he the greatest of all time conversation. But Reggie, on the other hand, Reggie controls what voicemails we play. So Reggie wants us to have this barbershop conversation. Reggie wants us to fall for this. I'm not falling for this trap. I've said it before, I've said it a million times. It's not fair to compare across eras. It's a different game. The game's played differently. The athletes are different. Health has changed. Training has changed. So much has changed about the game that it's not fair to compare John Havlicek to Chris Paul. It's not fair to compare Pistol Pete to, Ben Simmons. Like, they're completely different things. So I'm not doing this. I thought you was going to compare Pistol Pete to somebody else. I'm not going to do this. I'm not falling for this trap that Reggie just set for me. I'm not doing LeBron versus MJ. You can't do cross-era comparisons. You can't.
Well, a couple of things. Number one, I thought you was going to compare Pistol Pete to somebody else.
Okay.
I digress. Number two, the gentleman that called in, can we clip his voice and allow him to sing so I don't have to sing anymore?
I don't know why you act like singing is so difficult. That would make me really happy. No one asked you to sing in the first place.
But I also have a major announcement as it relates to the all-time great players in the NBA, my history of the NBA. This pains me to say this. Oh, man, I might shed a tear. LeBron officially passed Magic Johnson on my list.
On your list? He passed Magic Johnson on my list a long time ago. But again, it's different eras. Like, it's just a different game. Watch NBA Classics on the NBA TV network. Just watch it. It just looks like a completely different sport when you watch a game from like the early 80s or something. Like, it's a completely different sport. It really is.
When we talk about all-time great players, LeBron is uniquely placed because though people don't view him as a point guard, he's one of the best passers the game has seen, and he's going to be top 5 on the assist list.
Yep.
Though people don't view him as a scorer, he has a chance to be the NBA's all-time leading scorer.
Yep.
And so, with that being said, if there's a most complete player, then you could try to compare him to MJ. But when you want to say the best player, now you got me splitting hairs. Jordan led the league in scoring many more times. He was Defensive Player of the Year many more times. He led the league in steals many more times.
Never lost in the finals.
He won championships many more times. And for whatever it's worth, last but not least, in all of those that you mentioned, he did win MVP, which will never be said about another player again. Tim Duncan's all-time great. Every time they won a championship, he didn't win Finals MVP. Same for Magic, same for Kareem, same for Shaq, same for Kobe. And so for LeBron to win 3 championships and win 3 Finals MVPs, that got us like, whoa, we need to start having this conversation. But it's just like rap music. It's just like the movies or anything else. There'll be people who haven't seen both, and they want to take what's happening right now for what's the best ever. And so that's why I appreciate being able to have a history with rap music to where when somebody starts talking to me about rap, I'm like, wait a minute. Have you heard of Grandmaster Flash and Melly Mel? The MCs that are flowing right now, they don't necessarily have to be the greatest of all time because they're happening right now. But LeBron James put himself in this category by the way he's playing. And being just a kid from Akron, if you would have told him when he started the powder toss and started wearing number 23 and said he wanted to be like Mike in his backyard when he was doing 3-2-1 and making a game-winning shot. For us to even be having this conversation about any player is remarkable because we thought we had that conversation about Kobe. And then we realized, like, wait a minute, he's the remix. For LeBron James, it's like, wait a minute. He's really catapulting this discussion. So I give him props for that, but LeBron James, again, has made it to the finals and lost 5 times. Michael Jordan has made it to the finals 6 times, won championships, and won MVP. He drops the mic.
And we also can't act like this is track and field or this is golf or something. Like, this is a team sport. This is very much not an individual sport. And everyone wants to compare numbers, and I get it. Like, there are numbers you can compare, but you got to remember Michael Jordan left the sport in the middle of his prime, and you also got to remember you got to watch the games. You know what I mean? Like, you got to watch Michael Jordan take over a fourth quarter. You can't just say, oh, well, Michael Jordan averaged this many in the fourth quarter. Like, watch an actual Michael Jordan game, and then you can talk about whether or not LeBron is better. I do want to ask you something about LeBron that didn't have room to make the television show. It's Wendy has an interesting article up about LeBron James and rest. You know, one of the things that me and you argue about is I argue that LeBron James was fatigued last year in the finals is one of the reasons they lost. And I think that LeBron James is playing 82 games and playing 43 minutes in the playoffs. I think that all that will have an effect over time. I think LeBron James will be fatigued, and there's numbers that show this, and I think it's effective. But Wendy has an interesting thing about how LeBron James rests while he's on the floor. Now, he points to the average miles an hour that LeBron James is running, which is obviously a way that you can quantify this, but it's more like you have to watch the game to see him kind of pass the ball in some possessions and literally stand there for 20 seconds while the rest of the team plays and then jog back on defense. You have to watch LeBron James pick his matchup and kind of just not play for defensive possession. Do you think there is such a thing as resting while you're on the floor? And do you think that's something that LeBron James does?
Nope.
Reggie, you're wrong. I almost refuse to dignify this comment. Here's what I mean. For anybody that's ever played basketball, there are times when every player rests on the floor. Let me repeat. For anybody that's ever played basketball, there are times when every player rests on the floor. Let me say it one more time. There are times on the basketball court where every player rests. This is just how it happens. And during plays, here's how. When the play is not for you, when you're not a part of the strong side action, what are you doing? You're resting. When George Hill's bringing the ball up, he's resting. When Kevin Love is posting up, he's resting. When J.R. Smith, anytime you see him bouncing a basketball, he's resting.
Yes.
And so that is a way for you as a player to catch rest. And against Toronto, anybody he's guarding on defense, he's resting. There's nobody on the Toronto Raptors that he's checking that's making him work.
They're not
There's
running
no
plays
KD
for
out
Adebayo
there.
and Siakam.
There's no Oladipo out there. No doubt. He's guarding DeMar DeRozan and Kyle Lowry less than 20% of the time. He's nowhere near them. He has his hands on his shorts or on his hips while the action is happening. And once they miss or the ball gets stolen or somebody get a block, then he's running as fast as he can the other way. Did this look like a guy that was tired? No. I've been telling you guys this forever. You were like, oh, he's going to be fatigued in the playoffs.
He is.
Because he played all 82.
He is.
No, he's not. We just started talking about players resting. No, we just start. What do you mean we'll see? He about to have a week off after they sweep Toronto.
They had the same thing last year. There was a 5-game series, Toronto. They had plenty of time off for the finals, and he was tired in the finals. I watched the games. I don't need the stats. I watched the games. We've all had this conversation a million times. We don't have to have it again. But I will say this. There's a time when everyone rests on a basketball game. Do you know when my time is to rest? If I have to jump twice in one possession. If I have to jump off the ground twice in one possession, I'm just, don't even pass me the ball. Don't even come near me.
And also, I didn't even say the obvious things like you rest during timeout. You rest during free throws. You rest between free throws. Like we're really overanalyzing this LeBron James fatigue thing, okay? I talked about this till I was blue in the face in the last round when they lost to Indiana. Oh, LeBron is tired. It may be because he played so many minutes in the regular season. LeBron James ain't tired. If y'all watching the game, y'all should know LeBron James ain't tired.
LeBron James is tired. Jalen, before we go, the world was exposed to you finally paying off your Pistons bet. For you finally doing the Cinnamon Challenge. It was an awkward moment on stage. I felt like it was a non-consensual Cinnamon Challenge that I forced you into. But you did it. I'm proud of you for doing it. I really thought you were going to back out. But just For the audience that's sane and has never done it before, and for myself, what does it feel like? What does it taste like? And how was that experience?
Here's what the Cinnamon Challenge did to me. It made my voice raspy and hoarse for 4 days.
Whoa.
I was so disappointed in this program, I almost quit this show. Every time I drank water or anything, I still felt like the cinnamon was in my mouth. I was coughing, and you know I'll try to have some hot tea or some Halls on deck. None of that helped. You know, I try to do my honey, lemon, and cinnamon, apple cider vinegar. Like, none of it was working.
You were not the same. We were hanging out after the show, and I could tell you, like, you ever, like, hanging out with one of your friends, you could tell there's something on their mind, like something happened at home, or there's something that happened in their work life, they're just not really paying attention to you. Like, it's just like one of those, where I was just like, Jalen's mind is not here, and I was like, oh, he's thinking about the Cinnamon Challenge. Well, thank you for doing it. This
I couldn't even enjoy the adult beverages.
Thank you, everyone, for listening. We've got a full week of shows this week. We're very excited about it. We'll be back tomorrow. Why?
Done. We're not done. We're not done. Got to give the people time. Give people what they want.
Allbirds wool runners are comfy shoes made from sheep. When you put them on, they feel astoundingly comfortable. They're so comfy, it'll feel like you're floating in a river of marshmallows. They also look good, too. Allbirds are designed simply, with no unnecessary logos. You can wear them to work or to play, in the office or out in the town. Allbirds is on a mission to prove that comfort, style, and sustainability don't have to be mutually exclusive. Go to allbirds.com and find your pair of soft,